Hello and welcome to this video from Billy Goat Wargaming. I am Sean Clark, your host. This is going to be a series of probably 2 or 3 videos as I play out a battle using Regiment of Foote on my lovely mat here from Tiny Wargaming. So Regiment of Foote I've done a review on in a previous video, but it's a grid-based game on a 4x3 foot table, and the game should last a couple of hours. It was published in 2016. So the armies, I'm going to show you the lists first before I show you the actual figures. So we have an early war parliamentarian and an early war royalist army who are going to fight it out today, and the generals for the early war parliament army are Lord Henry Goddard, MP, Sir William Parsons and Arthur Watson, JP of Tottenham. The parliamentarians have gone for 1 unit of veteran foot, 5 trained foot and 4 conscript foot, 1 trained horse, 4 conscript horse and 1 trained cuirassier unit, who are the Humphreys Lobsters. They've got 1 dragoon unit. Artillery, they've got 2 light guns, 1 medium and 1 heavy. And for scenery, they have chosen 1 gentle hill, 1 rough hill, 1 nasty hedge, 1 stream and 1 wood. On the royalist side, we have the generals Sir Horace Bealby Tipping, Melvin Meacham, Earl of Dorset, and Richard Milton. Their force consists of 1 veteran, 4 trained and 4 conscript foot regiments, and 3 veteran and 5 trained horse regiments, 2 dragoons, 2 light guns, 2 medium guns, and scenery, 2 gentle hills, 1 road, 2 nasty hedges and 1 wood. Okay, the first bit we're going to do, we're going to follow the battle sheet. So we've got the opponent's army sorted and the details, the scenery. We're now going to allot and roll for General's Gift with a re-roll allowed. What that means essentially is, if you're not happy at all with the gifts that your general has achieved, you can re-roll all of them, not just choose to re-roll 1. So a general can either be an attacking general, a defending general, or a morale general, and we allocate 13 dice across those 3 categories for the C&C and 7 dice for the 2 subordinate generals. So this is the royalist, the parliamentary army, and we have Sir Henry Goddard has put 10 into attacking. That's clearly something that's gone down through the generations in the Goddard family. And we need to achieve 1/6 to receive that gift. And we get the 1/6, so Sir Henry Goddard is an attacking general. He's only put 1 to defend. Well, that is a surprise. And he doesn't get it. And 2 to morale. And he needs 1/6, and he gets it. So Sir Henry Goddard not only will lead his men in the attack, he'll boost their morale as well. Then we go down to Sir William Parsons. You'll notice a tactic I've used across both. So for the parliamentary army, I've loaded the dice. You can see that. Loaded the dice in categories, hoping to just get 1. So attack for William, no. But he puts 5 dice into defending, and he achieves it. And 1 dice into morale, which he doesn't get. And then Arthur Watson, JP of Tottenham, 1 dice in the attack, which he gets. Good grief, that's good. 1 to defend, he doesn't get, and then he's got 5 dice in morale, which he gets. So that is a rather good allocation of gifts for the parliamentarians. They've got 5 gifts, 2 for Henry Goddard, attack and morale. Defending for William Parsons, and Arthur Watson has attack and morale. Okay, let's look what the Royalists do. I'll change the dice. We're going to use green for the Royalists. So as you can see, I've split them as evenly as I can over the 3 categories here, just to show you the difference in approach that you might take. There's no set approach, but I thought that would be an interesting thing to do. So Sir Horace Bealby tipping. Can he be an attacking general? He can. Can he have the gift of defence? No. Can he be a morale general? He can't. But he still achieved the 1. Melvin Meacham, 2 to be an attacking general. 2 to be a defending general. He gets it. And 3 to be a morale general as well, which he doesn't achieve. And then Richard Milton, 3 to be an attacking general, which he doesn't get. 2 to be a defending general, which he doesn't get, and also 2 to be a morale general, which he does get. So there is, I could re-roll all 3 of those, but achieve worse, which I would have to keep. But I think what we'll do is stick with that. So we've got 1 of each general on the Royalist side, and at least 1 of each on the parliamentarian side, but 2 of the generals have got 2 gifts. So let's see what difference that makes. Carrying on to the battle sheet then, we carry out the scenario generator. Now this determines which side is going to be the attacker. So we go to this lovely coloured graphic. Let's see if we can get that a little bit better in the camera. There we go. Hopefully that's better. There we go. And now move around this. It's a tabletop, if you imagine that, with some plans on it. Attempting to score in several categories that we'll be rolling for, but we start off with 10 dice per side. So 5, 7, that's 10 for the Royalists, 3, 5, 7 and 10 for Parliament. We'll roll off to see who goes first. Royalists gets a 6, Parliament gets 2. So the Royalists will start. So we'll just put a dice on there. You can put a figure or a marker on there. Now we can choose either end of this camp to come out of, but we'll put the Royalists at the top. And now to get the men into the men section, so yes, we'll start in camp, and we have 10 dice, 2, 4, 7, 10, okay, and we need 2 successes, 2s there, so that means rolling 4, 5 or 6. So I'm going to throw 4 dice, looking for a 4, 5 or a 6, and we get it. So the Royalists move into the men section. Now they score a d6 plus 3 points for that, so they get 4 points for the men, and we'll note that down here on the scenario generator accumulator. So that leaves 6 dice in the pool. The parliamentarian army will start here at the bottom and try to get into the cause. I'm going to be a bit more daring and roll 3 dice looking for 2, 4, 5s or 6s, which they don't get. Those dice are gone from the pool. They can recover them, which I'll show you shortly, but they don't move out of camp. So the Royalists now have two decisions. They can come into the cause, or move up into stores and powder, or go across to scouting. They're going to come down into the cause. Let us strive for what we believe is right and right for God. And they're going to use 4 more dice for that, looking for 2 successes, and they fail to get 2 successes. So they're stuck. They're down to 2 dice. Now the parliamentary commander has seen sense and is going to roll 4 dice, looking for 2 successes. He gets 2 successes, moves into the cause, and scores 9 points on the cause. I'll explain these once this little section's over. Okay, so the Royalists have 2 dice left. They clearly can't go into scouting because they need 4 successes. They could come into here or here, but to get 2, 4, 5 or 6s could be problematic. So what they're going to do is muster. So to recover these dice, you need to roll a d6, roll the 6, and you get 6 dice back into your pile. And that's as simple as it works. Okay, because the parliamentary commander is rather rash, he's going to use his last 3 dice to try and get into the men and shove the Royalists out. But he needs 2, 4, 5s or 6s, and he fails. So he's stuck with no dice at the moment. And because the Royalist commander was rather wise, he has these dice, and he's going to throw 5 to try and get into the cause and score some points there. And he does it. He actually achieves 3 successes, so he comes into here. So because Parliament are blocking the way there for the Royalists to move into the cause, there's now a little mechanic that we will play out. So the parliamentarians as defenders roll 2d6, and they score 8. Now, there's 3 choices for the moving player, in this case the Royalists. I will roll 1d6 and not exceed your blocking score, which is fine, and that would gain them 2 campaign points, but they would stay where they are and not throw out the parliamentarians. I will roll 2d6 and not exceed your blocking score, in which case you swap positions and gain d6 point plus 3 campaign points for the challenge location, which you've probably got a better chance of. Or I will roll 3d6 and not exceed your blocking score, swap positions of the blocker, gain d6 plus 3 campaign points for the challenge location, and deduct all points from the blocker's total on that location. These points are lost and not given over to you. So a roll of 8. Chances are I'll roll lower on 2d6 and therefore be able to swap locations. That's what we'll try. However, I need to roll 9 because it's exceeding your blocking score. So Royalists roll 2 dice and get a 7, which means that they win that little duel. And we go back to where we were on the map. We were like that, and now we swap positions. And the Royalists gain d6 plus 3 in the cause, so they get 6 points there. Okay, so back over to the parliamentarians. Now they have no dice in their pool, and they get 2 back. Now the Royalists can choose to go to give battle if they could get 6 successes, which they can't clearly on 3d6, or 5 successes. They could try to go back into the men and put the parliamentary back in the cause, but they're actually going to muster some more dice, and they get 2 more dice, so they're up to 5. The parliamentarians have got to muster, and they get 1 extra dice, which isn't great, so they're on 3. And the Royalists are on 5. The Royalists would really like to get over to scouting or stores, so what they're going to do is try and kick the parliamentarians out of the men again. And again, they might as well throw all 5 at it. And it's a good job they did, because they get 2 successes. and they go there. Now back to that mechanics. So let's see if the royalists can kick the parliamentarians out of this section, and we've got an 11. So almost certainly they're going to be able to do it, and this could be interesting. Although they've got, yes, they'll just roll the 2d6, so they'll be very unlucky to beat it. They don't, and they've put the parliamentarians back into the cause, and they score some more points in the men. That's a 1 plus 3 is another 4 points into the men on the tally. So you can see that there. They move up to 8. Now, the royalists have got no dice in their pool. Parliamentarians have got 3. They are going to roll another dice, so they get 3 more dice back into their pool, so they can perhaps do something with that. They know the royalists have got to muster. They get 5 in their pool. Now, it's pretty slim chance of getting 5 successes on 66. So the parliamentarians will muster again for another 5. You can't exceed the original total of 10. So the parliamentarians are back up to 10 dice. And the royalists are going to try and move up here, looking for 2 successes, and they don't get it. And they're out of dice. That's interesting. Okay. Now this... Yes, I think the parliamentarians are going to try and kick the royalists out of here, looking for 2 successes, and they don't get it. Oh dear. Poor dice rolling. So no movement. Parliamentarians, royalists gain 1 back. Parliamentarians will try again, and they do achieve it this time with 3 successes. So let's see if they can kick the royalists out. 3. Oh, crikey. That is a good roll on behalf of the royalists, and the only option really for Parliament is not to exceed it on 1 dice, but they do, and they fail in their attempt to move into the men and don't gain any points. So this battle preparation is going somewhat towards royalists at the minute. The royalists will muster for another 2 dice. They're up to 3. Parliamentarians get 4 back. Royalists get another 3 back. They're up to 6. Parliamentarians muster 3 more back. And I think what the royalists will do is throw 5 dice and try to move into stores and powder, which they achieve. Okay, so that leaves 1 dice in the pool. They get D6 plus 3 in stores and powder, so they go on to 8 in stores and powder, and their strategy now will be basically to get down to give battle as soon as possible, because they have a lead in 2 of the categories that will benefit in the on-table game. So really Parliament's got to come up into the men to try and achieve that. They do. They score 4 for their tally in the men, which at least counters some of the success that the royalists have had. The royalists have got no dice in their pool, so they come back to 4. Parliamentarians, oh, good roll, muster back up to 9. 4, 8, 9. To move out of here, they need 3 successes or 2 successes. They've only got 4 dice, so they'll muster and get 5 more back, so they're up to 9 also. Now then, decisions. Do Parliament go here on a fairly safe one, or go here on a difficult one? Well, they've got nothing in scouting or stores, so I think they're going to go for stores and try and kick the Royalists out. They get the 2 successes required. However, let's see what we get on the higher or lower stakes. 5. Now that's a bit better. So, although it's still quite low, so anything but a 6. That's a 4, just rolled off the table. So they don't swap places, but because they got into there, they scored 2 campaign points. So it wasn't sufficient a risk to kick the Royalists out, but they did get into there and claim 2 campaign points. Okay, so the Royalists now need to head south, and they're going to put 8 dice into scoring 3 successes. And they get it in spades. So they move into scouting. They get a d6 plus 3, so 4 points in scouting. And really they're going to be going for this one next, but not in the next turn of dice rolling, because they've only got 1 dice left in their pot. Let's look what Parliament have got. They've got little bits in some, so let's go to stores and powder again with all 4 dice. They get there, they score 9 points in stores and powder, putting them up to 11. So interestingly, they've got the lead in a couple of these categories now. Okay, so the Royalists have to recruit. They get to 3 dice. Parliament's empty, they have to recruit, they get back to 3 dice. The Royalists again, so they get 6, so they're back up to 9. It's probably going to be worth having a go at getting in to give battle with 4 successes. Let's see what the Parliament do. And they get 5, so they're up to 8. Okay, so this could be the end of this pre-battle preparation here. Looking for 4, 5s or 6s. They get 1, 2. Look at all them 3s. Goodness me. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3s, and they fail to move in and now are out of dice. 3 successes for Parliament to get into scouting. They're going to throw all of them because they know that the Royalists haven't got any dice left, and they get it. So both sides are out of dice, but let's see if the Parliamentarians can kick the Royalists out. Oh, it's another good roll. So they're not going to be able to kick them out, but they do gain 2 more points. Oh, sorry, 2 points in scouting. That's their first point in scouting. Right, so the big muster begins. Royalists get 6. Parliament gets 3. Got to recruit again. So that brings the Royalists back up to 9. Oh dear. Parliament are on 4. They may as well get their extra dice. They do. So the Royalists have got their full roll of 10, and they're going to be rolling for this next turn. So the Parliament know they're probably not going to get here or here, so they may as well try and recruit here. And they don't. That's a big waste of dice, unfortunately. for Parliament. Now, 10 dice, needing 4-4-ups, and they do it. 2, 3, they get 6. So they move in to give battle, and we now know that the Royalists get there first. Now they can choose to be defender or the attacker, and they're going to choose to attack. They've got a slight advantage in cavalry, so I think they're thinking that might be a wise move to make. So by winning that race to give battle, the Royalists get to attack and get to choose whether to attack. But now let's see what benefits may be gained in the stores and powder category. So we compare totals. Now this is actually one that the Royalists have won because the Parliamentarians have won, because stores and powder for the Royalists is 8 and it's 11 for Parliament. It's a difference of 3. So they gain +1 to all cannonade rolls and 1 fierce shooting marker awarded to a foot unit. Okay, I messed up a little bit there, so I've just decided the scenario generator off camera, and the results are that the Parliamentarian won the cause and scouting. So Parliamentarians get a lucky dog, which gives a unit +2 in a fight until such time as they roll a 4, 5 or 6 whenever they use the lucky dog. And in scouting they get +1 to nudging d6. So that's where the Parliamentarians can move the scenery around a touch, and fairly evenly spread. The Royalists won in 2 categories as well. No massive wins though, so the Royalists actually got the +1 to the cannonade and 2 fierce shooting markers. That allows re-rolls for shooting, and +1 to the cannonade dice means in the pre-game cannonade the Royalists will have a slight advantage. And then in the men there are 2 gambles and adjust death rolls by 2. So we'll do the gambles now, because this is a chance to increase the training of 2 units. Now here it tells us choose a unit, any unit of foot or mounted, not guns, dragoons or generals, and roll 2d6. On a 2 or 3 that unit is reduced by 1 level, reduced conscript are removed from the game, and a 9, 10, 11 or 12 you raise the unit by 1 quality level. Obviously that's not relevant to veteran, so you there's no point in choosing veteran, but looking at the Royalist list, we have 4 trained foot, 4 conscript foot, 3 veteran horse, 5 trained horse. So I think we'll put 1 on, let's put 1 on a trained unit of foot, and that's no difference. And I might as well do the same on the same unit, and it's no difference. The gambles don't pay off, which is a shame. Okay, this is the battlefield as it was laid out then, as a result of defender placing, the attacker placing the first wood and the first rough hill, which can be seen here and here, and then the defender placed the road here after a roll. That's in the mechanics of where a road will end up, and the stream actually ended up down this row here, although the defender managed to swivel it so he didn't have to cross the stream in his attack. The hedges, the nasty hedges that you can see, the 3 of them, were all placed and then were moved somewhat, but we have 2 gentle hills here, a gentle hill right at the bottom of the picture, and 2 woods, and as I said, there's the rough hill. So let's get the figures on the table. So let's look at the defending deployment as it is for the moment. This will change shortly because the defenders are going to have some depletions which will either take some units off table into reinforcements or deplete the size of the units. So in classic English Civil War fashion, we can see cavalry on the wings here with Parsons leading them. Two guns on the hill. Then Foote in the centre with guns on the hill behind. Across the stream, some more Foote and the rest of the cavalry. As part of the deployment, these dragoons can push forward and occupy this nasty hedge, so they claim that nasty hedge for themselves. Onto the attackers, and again we have an infantry heavy centre. Deployment forces you to do that because that's where historically they were. And the four centre squares, 1, 2, 3 and 4, must each have one unit, one regiment of foot in it at the deployment. So going from right to left, we have 3 units of horse, one of which is veteran, denoted by the red dot, and some dragoons. We have units of horse and Meacham on the hill, along with 2 units of foot, regiments of foot, and 1 medium gun. That's a rough hill, so there's a dice roll needed to come off that. Then a foot heavy centre led by Horace Bealby Tipping with a medium gun and 2 light guns in the line and coming through the woods here. A unit of horse and 3 units of horse with some dragoons led by Milton. So that is where we are at the moment with deployment. We are now going to do depletions and then the cannonade. So after depletions, the parliamentarians only choose to take 2 units off table, and that's because they did rather well in the depletion rolls. They lost half a base off this cuirassier unit, half a base here, a full base off the veterans. Now that might have been more wise to take them off the table, but parliamentary player decided to keep them on. Half a base off this conscript unit, and then a half base of this trained unit. So all in all, that wasn't so bad of a depletion, and this could be quite tough for the attackers now, I think. So now we come to the cannonade. We'll start with the attackers, who have 4 guns. They have a medium gun on this hill, and we roll 1d6 minus 1 to see how many hits it will do on the enemy. So that will do 2 hits. I'll move those forward shortly. We have a light gun, which is a d6 minus 3, but there's a minimum of 1. Another medium gun, so it's a d6 minus 1, that's 5. And a light gun here on the edge of this wood, just there, that's 1. Okay, so the defender, we've got 2 light guns here, so d6 again minus 3, minimum of 1. d6 minus 3, minimum of 1. So they've both done 1 hit. The heavy gun now is just a straight d6. So that does 3 hits, and the light medium gun is a d6 minus 1 for 2 hits. So 2 here somewhere. There we go. Okay, saving rolls for the hits then. This medium gun on the hill shot into this square where we have a trained unit who's received 2 hits. So they need to make a save. Normal save is 4 up, but because they're in an enclosure, that goes to 3 up. So they lose another base. We'll put the dead down shortly. This light gun fired down here onto these conscripts who took one hit. They're in the open, and because the conscripts, they save at one worse, so that's a 5 up. So they take a casualty. Moving along, this medium gun here, shot and hit the square with these veterans in and 2 units of conscripts. Now, this could be bad news for that defender's square. So the target always places the first 2 hits. So we'll put 2, 2, and 1. So being veterans, they save 1 better in the open. They save on a 3 up, and they've saved both. That's fortunate. Now the 2 conscript units, unfortunately, both in the open, both save 1 worse. So there's 2 hits on the middle unit, needing 5s. So they lose another casualty. And then the unit at the back takes the excess hit of the 5, needing a 5, and gets a 5. Done well to survive that. And then finally, for the attacker's cannonade onto the Parliamentarian army, we have 1 hit at these troops behind this enclosure hedge here, and we'll take it on the middle trained unit who are so far undamaged. They need a 4 up, but goes to 3 up because of the hedge, and they just about save. Coming around to the royalist, parliamentarian side. So there's 1 hit off this medium gun here, light gun on the hill, which goes down. Did 1 hit on that square, and because each square can only be hit once, it moves to the side and hits these cavalry. We've got veteran, 2 units of veteran cavalry, some dragoons, and a unit of trained horse. So cavalry save on a 4 up, but veterans save on a 3 up, so we'll get put it on the veterans, and they lose half a base. So that's that one. We've got a unit of trained horse in the wood. They've taken 1 hit. Cavalry do not benefit from covering the woods, but they make their save. Now, 3 hits on this square from the heavy gun shooting down here. So 3 hits here. So we've got veterans and conscripts. So we'll put 2 hits on the veterans, who will save on a 3 up, and they lose half a base. And the conscripts save 1 worse, but need a 5, but they do save. And finally 2 hits on this square where we have 1 trained unit and 2 conscripts. We'll put both hits on the conscripts, looking at 4s, and that's a whole base gone. That's quite meaty. So they lose a whole base. Okay, first turn proper then, as we begin this battle of Regiment of Foote. From the attacker's side, the stream may cause an issue later in the game. The attacker knows he's caused 1 or 2 casualties in the cannonade, but has received some in return. In Regiment of Foote, all actions go right to left along the table. So regardless of how you want to do it, you have to be aware that actions go right to left. So let's see what happens in the first turn. First things first, as we look at the play sheet, is pay for turn extensions after 8 turns. Well, we haven't reached 8 turns yet. This is turn number 1. There are no gifts given out by the generals to units. Move generals 2 squares. I don't want to move them. They're just nice where they are. Morale. Okay. So any unit with morale from right to left has to take the morale test now. And the first one we come across is this here, where we have a unit with 2 casualties. So to calculate morale, we look at the chart, which tells us that we have 2 casualties, 1 conscript unit, so that's 3 dice, but there are 3 or more half-pike bases in the square. We've got 6 half-pike bases, and we do have a general, which is the Honourable Horace Beelby Tipping in the square, which means we're down to 1 dice. So we'll make that roll now. And that's a 1, and in Peter Pig games, a 1 is a good result. The next square along is here, who've got 1 casualty figure. I'll take that away and replace that with a dice. And we have conscripts in the square as well, so that's an extra dice. However, we do have veterans in the square, so we take 1 of those away. There's no general, and the -1 is for a veteran unit or defending nasty hedges or on a hill or 3 or half-pike bases or defending a fortified manor. In a siege, so it's 1 dice roll again, and that is a 6. So no units may leave the square this turn. No assault can be initiated, which for an attacking side isn't great. However, there is only 2 regiments of foot in there, so maybe not the disaster it could have been. And finally, for morale, this could be a disaster because we have 1 casualty. We have no conscript, we do have a general, and we do have veterans, so that's going to be no dice, and that is lucky because they are just starting to get into a little bit of a trot, getting ready to assault. The only issue here for Parliament is that all of their horse are pistoler cavalry. That's how they over on that flank. But the Royalist cavalry are all charger cavalry, which means they are aggressive in the charge. So let's see what happens. So for this first turn, I'll show all the mechanisms of movement and shooting and fighting, etc. And then for subsequent turns, I'll speed things up a little bit. So that was morale right to left. We're now left with movement and right to left. These horse. Now these horse are going to be very aware that there are Royalist charger cavalry on that flank, and if they go too far forward, then things could get a little difficult. And there are also some sneaky dragoons behind this hedge. So they've got a couple of decisions: either move forward to this square. They have 4 squares of movement, so they could go 1, 2, 3, 4 and get on the flank of that unit, and then potentially shoot them before the charger cavalry get a chance to move. But I'm not quite sure which is the best way to go, so I think what they'll do is move up. So here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. They may as well move up to here because they are pistoler cavalry, and they can shoot next turn. The dragoons can move 2 squares So I think what they'll do is go here and here. This cavalry needs to roll to get off that hill, which they'll do, and they need a 5 or a 6. That costs them 1 of their squares of movement, 2 of their squares, 3 of their squares, and the 4th one gets them off the hill, and they're going down there to maybe shore up that trotter cavalry who've moved down there. So Foote are wanting to come off this hill as well, 2 units. They need a 4, 5 or 6 to come down off here. So the first unit, no, they're stuck, but the white coats behind, no. What they can do now, though, even though they've failed to move off the hill with their regular movement, is to take a free square of movement if it doesn't bring them into face contact with an enemy. And moving into this square here isn't a face, it's a diagonal contact. And in fact, the horse can move forward 1 more because they're not in face. So that's what they'll do. They'll come down off the hill. It's taken them the whole turn to do that. Now there's no such limit for the square with BLB tipping in it. So to get things moving, they will move 2 squares forward. BLB tipping wasn't attached, so I didn't declare that. This square can't move, but these can. Now again, these need to roll to get out of the wood, and 1 is conscript, so it needs a 5 or a 6. Fails on the first roll, fails on the second, but again it's moving out into a square where there's no face contact. The unit behind, these blue coats, are trained, and they do get out with their second move. They could have got out anyway, but at least we know that there's support there for that foot. Okay, we have horse and wood, so these need a 5 or a 6 to get out, and we'll be looking to support these. Square occupancy, just for information, is 3 units. That doesn't count the first dragoons, the first gun. If it's a light gun, medium and heavy guns do count towards occupancy, and generals don't count at all. So let's see if we can get this regiment of horse through this wood. They need a 5 or a 6, and they do it with their first movement. And they'll take their second movement to move here, in the hope that these guys are now going to charge. They are pistoler cavalry, but if they don't charge, they most certainly will be charged. This is a gentle hill, so it blocks line of sight to an extent, but it is no impediment to this horse. So this horse is going to gallop over the hill, led by Milton, who is attached to a unit, and they are charging in. And then we have dragoons who will come up and support, so they will take that hill. So that is the royalist first turn of movement. A little stuttering in the centre there, because the troops on that rough hill found it quite difficult going to come down off it. And in any case, they're separated by that stream from the rest of the foot. BLB Tipping's brigade here move forward no problems, but that veteran unit at the front has already taken some casualties. And the unit here came out of the wood eventually, and this unit failed that morale test. So a little bit of a halting start in the centre, but we have a somewhat glorious charge of cavalry, and we'll see what comes of that. Now, there's a very interesting mechanic here where all the cavalry could easily disappear off the table, either routed off or chased off the table, and the winning cavalry end up going to try and loot the baggage, but let's see what happens. As with all Peter Pig games, it's a pile of dice mechanic, so we'll look at the assaulter first. So 3 for each assaulting foot or cavalry unit at strength. Cavalry only count 1d6 per unit if the target is behind a nasty hedge or a wall. Cavalry in or assaulting around rough ground, marsh, wood, building or rough hill. But that's a start of 9 dice, 3 per unit. Each unit in a square not already counted. Well, it's just the 3 units. The dragoons are unable to keep up. Each charger or Highland aggression marker. Now that's going to come into play for the parliamentarians. I do apologise. These are the royalists, so they will get that. So it is +1 per unit, and this can be removed. They can lose this ability, i.e. get blown in certain circumstances. The General, Richard Milton is in there with them. Each support square, well, there's no support square. Dragoons aren't counted as worthy troops for support. There's no winning the fight marker, and we've got no pike effect. The target has the hill and you don't, or defended nasty hedge or nasty wall or stream. Well, the royalists were just beyond the hill, so can't claim the advantage of that. So we have 13 dice for the royalists. For the parliamentarians in defence, it's 2 dice per unit. No other unit in the square. There's no charger, Highlander, aggression marker. There is a general in the square though. No pike effect, no assault from the rear of the square. There's no support square. No winning the fight, and the opponent doesn't have a unit that is harassing. So just 7 dice in the defence for the parliamentarian. So it seems a bit of an imbalance in dice, but remember that the attacker has to beat the defender in casualties. And also we have William Parsons in that square as a defending general. So he rolls his dice first and then has a potential re-roll. So we're looking for 5s and 6s. We've got 2 there, so I think the aggression within the parliamentarian cause means that that will be re-rolled. Can't possibly get worse. And look at that, that was a good decision. That's 4 hits onto the royalist cavalry. Let's see how the royalists do with their 13 dice. No re-roll though. And that is a bit of a disaster. It's 1 hit. Dear oh dear. But it is casualties that count and not hits. And the royalists will put 2 on their front veterans. Parliamentarians will put 1 on the other veteran and 1 on the trained. So let's see how these saving rolls go. In fact, well, they could put 1 on the general. It's a risky one, but they save on a 1-up. So to save casualties, no, it's a bit of a risk this early in the game. So the 2 hits on the veteran cavalry 3-up saves. Both saved. That's a good start. 1 hit on the other veteran cavalry. That's a dead, which means that they can't win this fight now. And 1 hit on the trained who save on a 4-up, and that's another dead. So it's going to be a win for the parliamentarians, but they do have the 1 hit to save, and it's conscript cavalry who save on a 5-up. So they do lose 1 half base themselves. So the assaulting unit are left unable to get into that square. They have 3 more hits applied to them. So 2, let's put 2 on the undamaged veterans. Oh dear, this is it's not a great start. That's a whole base of veterans gone, and the other hit on the other veterans who do save. So this unit here is awarded a win in the fight marker. 1 win in the fight marker is awarded to the square, and now there's a chance that actually all of these can be routed off. So a win in the fight marker is applied to the square, and now there's a chance that this unit could be routed off. So what happens here is we roll dice for the number of target cavalry units. There's 3, and they're going to be pursuing this defeated cavalry flank here, where there's 3 units plus the general. And if the parliamentarians roll a 6 on one of these 3 dice, they chase the enemy cavalry away and go off table to try and maybe sack the baggage. And we get 2 6s. That is an unmitigated disaster for the royalist cause as that flank entirely collapses. So at the conclusion of that fight, you can see all the cavalry have been chased. The royalist cavalry have been chased off this table edge by the parliamentarian charger cavalry. Richard Milton who's here. There we go. Let's have him under the light. Has fled off table with the cavalry, but will be able to return. Unfortunately, his horse are dispersed, routed, defeated, and no longer will take part in the game. In one of the quirks, I suppose, of this set of rules, shooting takes place in the enemy's turn, so the royalists get no shot this turn. There they go. Sat over the other side of the table now, and can see that flank now devoid of horse, apart from this 1 unit of royalist horse who've seen their friends go. But we now have shooting on this side of the table. Again, it's right to left. We have 2 medium guns here. So let's see what they can do. They have a range of 4 squares. So they may as well both shoot at this horse unit. Okay, sorry about the light. I've had dinner in between. But okay, so we've got the shooting for these 2 guns. The horse on the other side of that hedge. It's a D6 per light gun, hitting on 5s and 6s, that's 1 hit. And the horse will save on a 4, 5 or 6. And they roll a save. So moving along the line, no shooting here, no shooting here. We have the gun on the hill, the heavy gun in fact, who will roll 3d6. and they can hit this square here. The arc of fire is basically 3 columns going ahead of it. So they will target this square here. The dice, 5s and 6s. And that's just one hit that the Royalists can choose. So they'll put it onto the conscripts. They've not taken any casualties yet, so that is a casualty. And the medium gun will fire at the same target. They're 2 dice, and they get 1 hit. And the target again chooses, and we'll put it on the rear unit of conscripts, and that is a save. Okay, I'm back round the other side of the table now, and just because the battery is running out on the phone. Okay, so we have this unit can shoot here. It's got a a range of 1 square, and there's 2 musket bases that can fire. So they will fire straight ahead, and that's nothing. These can fire diagonally, but they lose a base. Sorry, they don't lose a base, they lose 1 dice from the shooting. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that can shoot, but because it's a diagonal shot, we lose 1 dice. And there is a veteran in that square, so add 1 back on. Any conscript shooting, when there's 2, they remove 1, and you just remove each. You apply each modifier once. So it is 3 dice, hitting on 5s and 6s. And that is 2 hits. And I think they need to save this veteran unit. So first hit on the middle conscripts, that's a dead, and a save. So we lose that half base and put another dead there. So some good shooting there. This unit can fire here with 1 dice, but it loses 1 because it's a diagonal shot. And then we have 2 bases of dragoons. So the dragoons will shoot. They're going to shoot on the enemy dragoons there, because they won't lose a dice from shooting if they do that. So it's 2d6, and that's 1 hit. All dragoons save on a 3-up regardless of where they are, and that's 1 dead body onto the dragoons. And that will conclude the shooting. These are charger cavalry, so can't shoot. So that is all the shooting for the Parliamentarian Army. Okay, so that's the end of turn 1. I'll just have a little summary. The cavalry, the Parliamentarian cavalry chased the Royalist cavalry off that table edge, and one of those units may be sacking the baggage, with a couple maybe due to return to the table. But there's quite a few casualties in that turn for the Royalists to think about. But in any case, we start back with the Parliamentarians and any morale tests. Well, actually, its first gifts are returned to the CNC and then move generals, but Parsons is off that table edge. We've Goddard in this square, who is a morale general, and that unit needs to take morale, so I think he should be okay. And we have Watson down here, who's needs to think about what he wants to do about the enemy pistoler cavalry there. So let's take some morale tests. Going right to left, we have the Foote here, which is conscript. So we take that one off, and we're going to make some dice. Get 1 dice for the casualty. We have 1 dice because there are conscripts in the square. There's no enemy on a face. There is a veteran unit, which puts us down to 1 dice. So let's see what the result of that is. It's a 2, which means they're okay. Now, we have the square with the casualty in it. We have an enemy on a face and there are conscripts, so we're up to 3 dice already. And the only good news is that we can take 1 off for Goddard being there. And as he's a morale general, this can be re-rolled. So let's see what we get. And that's 2 fails, so he will re-roll. And that's beneficial. It's just 1 roll. So no units may leave the square. And no assault can be initiated from the square, but that's probably okay. And then this casualty here, we will take off. We'll add 1 dice. And they're on their own in that square. They're trained. They're not conscript. They've got no enemy to their face. But they haven't got 3 or more pike half bases in that square, so they don't benefit from that. So it's just going to be 1 dice for those troops, and that is a fail, so that's also a stand for them. I think that's it for morale. Okay, movement right to left. Well, there's nothing on this flank to move at the moment. There are some reinforcements off table, which may come on at the end of this turn. They're happy behind that hedge. Now, does this square take the initiative and assault there? That's an interesting one. They could do. So what General Goddard's decided is that this unit will move across and assault. That creates an over-occupancy of this square, but this square Foote unit can just retire. And here, they're happy with the hedge. And here we're going to have a charge of pistol cavalry at the Royalist cavalry on the flank. So let's see how that will progress. The Dragoons, I think, are quite happy where they are, occupying that hedgerow. Just push them up to it, because that means that they have the hedge and can claim the benefits of it. Okay, so that is movement. So about to fight this assault, or this fight, that we have a mechanism that I haven't seen before. So this is the pike effect. So we count up number of pike bases on each side, have a roll off and see who wins the push of pike, as it were. So it's 6 per side, because each base counts as 2 half bases. So we're going to roll 6 dice per side for that. So for the defenders, they get 4 effects, and the attackers get 4 effects to 5 effects, sorry, so that's actually 1 in favour of the defenders, and what that does is take a dice off the attackers. So we'll roll the dice for the assault here. Neither side has any re-rolls. The assaulting unit then, looking at 5s and 6s. That's 4. Not great. So if the green dice score 4, the fight is a draw. And they don't. They just score the 2. So that's a win for the parliamentarian side as it stands. However, it is on casualties, not hits. So let's see what happens next. Okay, so the parliamentarians will put one hit on their veterans. In fact, they'll put both hits on the veterans, needing 3s. So that's one casualty on the veterans. Now the 4 hits for the parliamentarians onto the royalists, they'll put 2, 1 and 1. So the trains need a 4 up, so they lose 1. The conscripts need a 5, they lose 1. And the conscripts at the rear also lose 1, so that's a big win for the assaulting parliamentarian troops. Let's sort out what happens next. So the push of pike was definitely won there by the parliamentarians. Extra casualties were caused there, and all three of those units are now looking pretty deplete. May struggle to hang around for the rest of the game. So on to this fight here between the cavalry. So by virtue of the royalist cavalry being chargers, this is going to be quite an even fight as they clash across Muckleston Moor. Yes, and it's probably proving to be a rash move there by Arthur Watson JP of Tottenham. He scored 2 hits to the 3 they've received back. So the first piece of good news really there for Cyrus BLB Tipping, as his cavalry hold off that counter charge and actually win that fight, meaning that Watson's men down there are in rather bad order. So an update then at the end of the second turn, just so you know, each side, the royalists take the odd numbered turns, so 1, 3, 5 and 7, and the parliamentarians 2, 4, 6, 8. And that is the end of turn 2. So mixed fortunes, but there's been some bloody murder caused by this clash of foot in the centre of Muckleston Moor, with the push of pike going to the parliamentarian side, pushing back BLB Tipping's brigade here. But different fortunes on this flank, where the parliamentarian cavalry charged into BLB Tipping's horse on that flank and actually lost the combat, although Watson is still there. So some casualties being caused. Okay, so turn 3, Harris BLB Tipping has joined this rather beleaguered square here. Meacham has joined this square. The Dragoons have passed their morale test and are about to take the morale test for this square, and after all the calculations, down to 3 dice. So let's see what happens. 4, 5s and 6s or fails, and we have 2 fails. So first of all, the owner applies 1 hit. So we'll put the hit on, well, these are already no good now, and if they take off, well, they save that hit, so that's fine. They fall back 1 square, so that push of pike really is done for them. I'm going to take the general with them, General BLB Tipping. So that unit that was reduced to below at strength has fled the field, leaving these two units here which are somewhat beleaguered. And that actually is all the morale. So movement. I'll come back to you when the moving is done. Okay, quite a bit of movement. The Royalist cavalry have charged back into the parliamentary counterparts. This unit tried to cross that hedge but couldn't, but are down there in some support, although they won't actually counter support for that cavalry. Dragoons have stayed where they are. They're going to be in a firefight there. Meacham has taken the white and green coats to assault the parliamentarians on the other side of that hedge. Milton has returned to the battlefield, assumed command, and formed this new brigade, although that's not an assault, they're just blocking the way of the parliamentarians, these in support. Over here the dragoons have moved round off that hill to harass the parliamentarians beyond this hedge in the enclosure, and the Royalist horse have charged the guns, the light guns on the hill. Okay, mixed fortunes then for the Royalist cause. They won this fight here and managed to retain their aggression factors for being charged cavalry. This could cause a problem. The parliamentarian cavalry is down to one base for each unit, so it's unworthy now. The assault here of the enclosures failed. The Royalist units were pushed back, and over here, as expected, the Royalist cavalry took out the guns, well, destroyed one and severely damaged and forced back the other. So, shooting for the parliamentarians. So shooting here, the Pistilla cavalry managed to do one hit on the charger cavalry. The dragoons here shot at these infantry and caused a casualty. The guns on the hill did very little, as did the 3 regiments of foot there. Actually, just remembered I've forgotten to fire these, so I've got 4 bases, musket bases, firing straight ahead to be sure. 5s and 6s, just the one hit, and they'll put that on a veteran unit, I think, and the veteran unit here fails its save. So it's a sanguinary encounter here on Muckleston Moor. That is the conclusion of turn 3. Over to turn 4. Let's see what happens. So a fairly crucial role now for this parliamentarian cavalry that were forced back into that copse of woods there. Thanks to the general, they're only rolling 4 dice, but this could be bad. Okay. So that's going to be a retirement for them, which will take them off table, but not technically out of the game. So they go to reinforcements, albeit they are under strength units now. They also take 1 extra hit, so we'll roll that now on the save that. So that's fine. Moving along the line, we have 1 casualty marker on that gun. Apologies, that marker was there to indicate they are damaged, and it's just half a base of a gun left. So it's the parliamentarian move. Let's see what they can do. Okay, as a result of the two fights, the horse on the Royalist side decided to fall back and received no casualties, so that was good for them. But they did leave those three regiments of foot on that hill. And the fight here went very badly for the parliamentarians. They lost quite heavily, and it looks like Milton has steadied the ship there, and one of his units have now received a winning the fight marker. So the infantry fight in the meadow here at Buckleson continues. Not going particularly well now for the parliamentarians. And the fight over here has gone very well for the Royalist cavalry, and that is, we are coming to the end now of turn 4. So after morale tests in turn 5 for the Royalists, the horse, after their valiant endeavours, have suffered a halt, which is understandable there, so no advance for them. Moving down here, Meacham's small brigade here fell back due to poor morale, as did this Greencoat unit who were here. So lots of casualties across the line here. All of the action is happening in the middle. And at last, Parsons has arrived back. William Parsons has arrived back with one of his units of horse. He's still got one off-table sack in the baggage and 1, 2, 3 other horse units in reinforcements, as well as a foot regiment. So the end of turn 5 then, and another good one for the Royalists, who at Push of Pike have really caused mischief on the parliamentary foot regiments there. They've really got the better of it now. One of the units has been destroyed. The veterans there are under strength and on the verge of being destroyed, and the conscripts at the back not much better either. So the horse here the Royalist horse managed to get over the into the enclosure and chase off the dragoons, causing a couple of casualties on them. But that was about it. Obviously we have Parsons back on the field, but we're going to have some morale tests now, which could see things go. Apologies there, a little memory issue, but yes, there's quite a lot of morale tests to be taken now on the parliamentary side. Let's see what they can do about that. So that is the end of turn 6. So we had Parsons cavalry, Sir William Parsons charging this regiment of horse, of Royalist horse. Unfortunately they were defeated and routed from the field, and Parsons has now been captured. There's no other fighting, although the parliamentarians have just consolidated their position along that ridge. The units that were here routed back, but have stayed on the field, which is something. But things are looking pretty desperate now as we move into the end game. Turn 7 coming up. Okay, midway through turn 7, the Royalists have tried to consolidate their position, and there's a grand attack upon this hill in which Lord Henry Goddard MP is in the thick of the fighting against Richard Milton. Lots of dice being thrown at it. It's ended up with 7 hits for the Royalists against 3 hits for the Parliamentarians. So let's do the 7 hits on the Parliamentarians first. So we'll have 2 on the conscripts at the front, 2 on the other conscripts, 2 on the gun and 1 on the general. So these saves are going to be fairly important. 2 on the conscripts, needing 5s. So that's 1 saved, 1 hit, 1 casualty. 2 on the regulars, needing 4s. That's another casualty. 2 on the gun. The gun saves on 5s. That's 2 more casualties. It destroys the gun. And the general, oh dear, Henry Goddard has fallen. And in reply, the hits on the Royalist units are 2 on the veterans, and the veterans lose a base, half a base, and 1 on the trained unit, and they also lose half a base. So Parliament take that hill, and Sir Henry Goddard's units fall back off table. And the writing's really on the wall now, I would say, but let's see what the Parliamentarian shooting can do. So end of turn 8, really, there could have been an assault there back up onto this hill, but it really would have been suicide, and I suspect they would have been wiped out in the interests of realism and a campaign setting. I think those units would retire, as would these units off the hills. Right, the Royalists have made great gains. The cavalry down here were fantastic, seeing off their counterparts in the Parliamentarian army and taking that ground, and they were never really threatened. Some heavy losses in the middle, in the Foote, in the ranks of the regiments of Foote, particularly here with this redcoat unit. But really all that the Parliamentarian have got left are these 3 strength units, with units off table that had fallen back, which they could bring back on in reinforcements at the end of turn 8, but obviously it won't have any impact on the game. So I'm going to call the game there, and we'll go to the victory conditions and see who's won. It certainly looks like a good win to the Royalists and Sir Horace Bealby tipping, but let's see what the dice say. Okay, after calculations, it's actually turned out as a dead heat, unbelievably. A couple of reasons for that is that the Parliamentarians killed far more bases than the Royalists did. The Royalists only actually killed 11 Parliament bases. There was a lot of units off table, but they'd moved off into reinforcements, so it didn't count as destroyed. And also they had a couple of low rolls when it came to dice rolling. Even so, a draw is a draw. I think we'll call that a tactical draw, but probably a strategic victory in the fact that the Parliamentarians had no generals left on table by the end of the game, having captured Sir William Parsons and killed Lord Henry Goddard. He may have actually been injured, Let's see if he was just injured, shall we? So I'll just come up with this quick chart. So on a 1 to 2, it's just minor wounds and he escapes back to parliamentarian lines. On a 3 to 4, he's injured but is captured. And on a 5 to 6, he's dead. And it's a 3. So Lord Henry Goddard has been captured along with Sir William Parsons. And the whereabouts of Arthur Watson, JP of Tottenham, nobody knows.